Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Hale. I'm the president of the board of directors here at the History Center at Lake Forest, Lake Bluff. Thank you for joining us for our 15th annual Local Legends event honoring the esteemed Dr. Hugh Falls. Local Legends is our annual signature fundraiser. Proceeds support the many activities we carry out to celebrate our community's rich history, including exhibits, programs, education initiatives, and the preservation of the museum collection and archives. I want to thank our lead sponsors for this year's Local Legend event, Amy Falls Rogers and Hartley Rogers, and Robin and Sandy Stewart. I also want to recognize our primary sponsors, Tish and Tom Hunter, Ann Hunting and Ari Mintz, and Mary Ann Wells. We're also grateful for our many patron sponsors and supporters. Lots of volunteer hours went into building this presentation. Special thanks go to the Local Legends co-chairs, Maddie Dugan and Sarah Mailer, and their committee under the direction of our registrar, Colin Guido. I wanted to acknowledge our appreciation for previous Local Legends, a few of whom are here tonight in the audience. I know Jean Hotchkiss, wherever you are, Jean. Jack Schuler. And I'd like to just a little special shout out to Jim Sterling, who is Ellen Sterling's partner in crime. We're very lucky to have Michael Bauer conducting the interview. Dr. Bauer joined the Lake Forest Pediatrics in 1988 and is an assistant professor of pediatrics at Northwestern University, Feinberg School of Medicine. Dr. Bauer is currently the medical director of Northwestern Lake Forest Hospital, where he previously served as the chief of pediatrics and is a past president of the medical staff and a hospital board member. And we're all here to celebrate the beloved Dr. Falls, his amazing career, and the over 50 years he cared for members of our community with great kindness. Please join me in welcoming our 2024 Local Legend, Dr. Hugh Falls.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, indeed.
Yeah.
It's really a pleasure and my honor. I'm not sure why they chose me to do this, but OB and pediatrics, it's kind of a great marriage. Hugh, I hope you take the time, just look out here. Look at everybody that is here today that came to honor you, pay tribute to what you've done, not just for your patients, but the whole Lake Forest community. I know you're really a humble guy and don't like this, but I really want you to...
I'm astonished and highly gratified. It's really great, and I really appreciate all the support these people give to the History Center. It's really wonderful, truly.
It's great having some of the previous Local Legends here. Some of the other notables, I believe Captain Lovell, that Bill Curtis, Ryan Sandberg, to name a few, other journalists, politicians, but you're the first physician chosen. Yeah. Boy, I feel like this is the president's address where you're going to clap every comment. But I think it really shows your commitment for the past 60 years and your contributions to your patients, the community, and the impact that you had on your colleagues that have also joined us today. Last year, due to a very generous grant by his family, we created the Hugh Falls Honorary Lecture Series at the hospital. And this is now attracting national experts in their field to come speak to the medical staff, and it really honors Hugh's commitment to our continuing education program. And when we met with him, he really wanted to focus on combining basic medical sciences and the connection to innovative medical practices. And that's a testament to his lifelong learning. That when we found out that he was chosen, a bunch of my colleagues at the hospital came up to me and said, what a great thing. And I just want to share a few of the adjectives that everybody used to describe. Energetic, the consummate professional, role model, calm under pressure, unflappable, can put you at ease in the most tense situations or at 3 a.m. That was usually by telling one of his famous jokes, because he is the ultimate joke teller. Besides being an incredible physician, his talents don't stop just there. He was a pretty accomplished athlete in his early days, playing basketball in college and then starting some basketball teams, which maybe we'll talk about later, and his switch to golf and tennis more recently. By the way, would you care to share where you were this morning?
Well, I was at a senior tennis tournament.
Why did they make you play senior?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
That he's also a movie buff, an accomplished jazz pianist, a handyman, and did I mention jokester, by the way? That
Yeah.
I thought it would be fun to kick this off with a couple fun facts briefly about 1931, the year that Dr. Falls was born. That was the year that the Star-Spangled Banner became the official national anthem
I didn't know that.
for the United States.
How about this?
No relation, but Al Capone was sentenced to 11 years in prison. The George Washington Bridge opened in 1931. The Empire State Building was completed. Thomas Edison filed his very last patent. Think of that, Thomas Edison. The cyclotron, that which was used to accelerate nuclear particles, that was invented in 1931, along with the electron microscope.
Oh.
And I think that's kind of fitting, because we're going to get into a little bit. He's a professional student and lifelong
What you
learner.
may not know is that Tom Edison and I share the same birthday.
Wow. Along, I have to mention,
Yours are a little different.
both my parents were born on February 11th. Yeah,
Wow.
so maybe that's why I was picked. Charlie Chaplin's City Lights, a silent film that is largely acclaimed as his best, was debuted and attended by Albert Einstein. Who knows who the president was that year? Anybody?
Hoover.
Very, very good. Okay, a little tougher. Who won the World Series? Not the Cubs. The St. Louis Cardinals defeated the Philadelphia Athletics. Some other notable birthdays in 1931. James Earl Jones, Robert Duvall, Angie Dickinson, Captain Kirk and Spock, both of them, James Dean, Larry Hagman, Rito Morena, Barbara Eden, Anne Bancroft, also known as Mrs. Robinson, Dan Rather, Willie Mays, and our own Ernie Banks in Chicago. But none of them delivered a single baby. This man next to me here has delivered somewhere over 11,000 babies in his career. Think of that number. But according to a recent article that I read, 110 in one shift. I'm not a math major, but that doesn't quite fit.
Allow me to clear that up. I won't say it's a misquote, but it was a misunderstanding by the person who wrote it. Because when I told him, two things. I said, in the 4 years I was training at County Hospital, we averaged 50 deliveries a day for 4 years, which is a lot of babies. It was the busiest OB hospital in the world at the time. And I did tell him in one 24-hour shift we delivered 110 babies, but somehow he thought I said I delivered. we had I had a fellow resident and two interns, so there'd be four of us working it. So we still had a pretty busy 24 hours. I'll say that. But I did the math that it would have been 13 minutes a baby, and I would have been running around like the Wile E. Coyote or the Roadrunner in order to accomplish that, I think. So.
You know, he once told me the only problem with being on call every other night, you missed half the deliveries. That's how he looked at it. So how did you end up getting to Cook County? Tell us a little bit about your journey deciding to go into medical school.
Well, at the Carleton College, and I came to the University of Illinois undergraduate, and I knew I was going to be in this area, and so at that time, I thought County Hospital was. I had an older brother that was county, and my father had a service there, so I knew a lot about County Hospital. At that time, you had to write an exam to get in to be an intern there. It was kind of interesting, so I wouldn't trade anything that I've done in my whole life for the 4 years I spent in training there. It was absolutely superb. The volume of in itself that gives you access to so many unusual things that other people don't see. So I think I told you one night, one of our rotations as a resident, they call it surgical OB, so for 3 months you would do all the surgery that needed to be done, whether it's cesarean section or D&C or whatever. And I don't know if you all know what an ectopic or tubal pregnancy is, pretty rare thing normally. And other people that I've talked to that trained at other hospitals maybe saw one looking over the shoulder of the private doctor. One night between 6 in the evening and about 7 in the morning, I operated 7 ectopic pregnancies at Cook County Hospital.
What did your dad say when you told him about that?
No, that was something else I told. I think I told you that. No, I delivered a pair of Siamese twins, my first year resident. And reported it at the Chicago Gynae Society. So in looking over the literature, it turns out it's the largest pair of Siamese twins that had ever been delivered vaginally without being separated. The combined weight was about 16 pounds and 4 ounces. I still have, so my father, who was head of OB-GYN at University of Iowa and then at University of Illinois for about 38 years, and he had a service at County Hospital. So I was only a freshman resident. So I was at our house for Sunday dinner, and I said, "Well, Dad, I had my first Siamese twin last week." And he dropped his fork, and he says, "I've never seen a Siamese twin being born yet." So anyhow, why did I choose County? I mean, it had that reputation. I had a brother who had been there, and it wasn't a salary, I'll tell you that. We got $30 a month. That was the intern salary. When they'd be residents, they kicked it up to $50 a month. So, but it was amazing training.
Hugh, a little bit on those Siamese twins, because if I recall, ultrasound was not being used in obstetrics during that period of time. So tell us a little bit about how the woman came in and you figured that out.
First of all, this woman came in, it was her 8th pregnancy, and she'd had no prenatal care. And when she got off the elevator and brought her in, she was ready to deliver. She was huffing and puffing. We had 5 delivery rooms at County Hospital. One of them had 2 tables on it. All 6 tables were being occupied by somebody. So the nurses kind of pushed this lady down the hall on a little gurney cart. Well, to make the story good, a friend of mine who was a obstetrician out in Oak Park, he had some junior medical students with him, and so he got called away for delivery. So he had told me, he says, "Hugh, show these kids a normal delivery and then let them go to lunch." I said, "Okay, we'll take the next one." She was the next one. And she came down and she was on this little cart. I said, well, that's okay. It's her 8th pregnancy. We'll deliver her on the cart out in the hall here. And it's not a happy story. But first of all, the babies were stillborn. I have to say that. And they couldn't have lived anyhow. These twins were joined at the chest, face to face. They had a single heart that they shared. The heart had 5 chambers in it, and they shared a single liver. But everything else was duplicated. The 2 gallbladders and you name it. And they had probably been dead for a couple of days by our judgment. But anyhow, that was how it started. And so when the first head kind of came out, it was kind of stuck. And I said, oh, my God, here I am on a cart. But one of the interns had finished the delivery coming by, so I said, give me a little pressure from above. And he said, I think you might have twins here. I really didn't know. This all happened so fast. So I don't think I should go into great detail. But that was it. And we got them out finally. It took a while.
But it was precisely that kind of training that kind of contributed to what you were really known for at the hospital, which is in the toughest of deliveries, which a lot of the younger obstetricians trained today aren't really able to do, being able to use forceps, all different kind of techniques.
I think our national cesarean section rate now is what, 30%, 32%?
We're lowering it locally.
Well, just so you know, the 4 years I was there, our cesarean section rate was 3 to 4%. Probably lower than it should have been, but I think the liability crisis wasn't as bad as it was then. But anyhow, I certainly learned to use forceps. And people say forceps are bad. No, they're not. They're life-saving on occasion and very helpful if they're used properly. It depends how you use them, I think. But anyhow.
All right, so you finished up at County.
Yep.
Then where did you move on to?
I went into the Navy. We had to join the military service. When I was in medical school, if you committed to 2 years in the military, they would let you finish medical school. So we all did. And so I chose the Navy. So after that, they sent me up to I got my orders to report to Adak, Alaska. And I said, oh, God, where is that? I got the map of Alaska, and I couldn't find it because it's an Aleutian island, and it's one of the last of the Aleutian islands. So it's a stone's throw from Japan. It really is quite there. So I went out there for a year, and there's a lot going on out there. That was a very interesting year, frankly, because there were just 2 of us, and there was 12,000 people on the island. The Navy had a big contingent. Army had a contingent. The Marines had and the Coast Guard had some, and there were natives living there. And Western Electric had lots of civilians out there. They were building these large antennas as part of the early warning system because we were in the Cold War then, and people were worried about missiles coming from Russia. So along that whole Aleutian chain, they were building these huge antennas to pick that up.
So you have to pick up, move from Chicago to Alaska.
Yep.
I think you were married at that time,
and,
right?
And I'll tell you, it's very strange. I probably wouldn't be at Lake Forest if what happened had not happened. I know that sounds weird.
Did you take your wife to Alaska with you?
Let me tell you. So, well, I went up there. They took all my household goods and sent it there. And you had to wait for housing. So there was usually, you wait till someone rotated off the island and housing would come. So I got there July 1st. And they told me the average is about 6 weeks. And you'll get housing. Now, if my wife had come with me, I would have spent my 2 years on Adak. If I didn't bring my family up there, my wife, I was guaranteed I'd have 1 year there and my choice of my next naval base, where I wanted to go. But I wanted to have her up with me. So we kept on the phone. Well, what happened, 6 weeks came and went, and still there was no turnover. It got to be 8 weeks. It got to be 3 months. It got to be 4 months. There was a very slow turnover. And she would have hated it up there. There was nothing for her to do, and she was living with her widowed mother, and she had a good job at Press St. Luke's down there. So I said, look, stay where you are. Said, I'll finish this up. And then I chose Great Lakes Naval Hospital for my second year, which was also one of the great years of my life, frankly. And then we really fell in love with the community in this area, made some new friends. And when I got out of the Navy, I went back down to Oak Park, where my father was practicing. I worked with him for 2 years. He was in his 80s and kind of getting ready to quit. And I had a teaching appointment at Northwestern, so we lived downtown. We had a little apartment near the Drake Hotel. And I commuted out to Oak Park. And in those days, a reverse commute was really a breeze. The bad traffic was only coming in the morning and going out in the evening, so it really did work quite well. And
did you pick up on that? My dad was in his 80s, still practicing.
Yeah.
I think that was the point in time you decided, oh, I got to beat that.
It worked out well because they had put a rule in that if you were over 80, you couldn't operate. So that was nice because he had lots of very interesting patients referred to him. But then I would operate and he would assist me, and I picked up a lot of really good little tricks of the trade working with him for a couple of years that I really carried with me. But anyhow, we had our first baby sitting right here. And we really had fell in love with this whole area up here. We said, let's just go to Lake Forest and start over. So that's what I did, and that's how we happened to get up here. And I often wondered if they had housing for me. and my wife had come up there 6 weeks later or something like that, and we spent the 2 years. I think we would have been down in Oak Park right now, probably. So it's funny how the Lord works in strange ways, and we are so grateful that it worked out that way.
With such a small population
Yeah.
up there,
Yeah.
you weren't doing just obstetrics.
No.
No.
There were two of us, and 12,000 is not a bad-sized small town. And I had some surgical training, so I did all the obstetrics and gynae, but I also did the general surgery because the other doctor was going to be a pathologist, and he really had not had much surgical training. But he did autopsies, and he did ENT, so which I didn't want to do. And we sort of split the call both ways there. So it was pretty exciting. I did lots of appendectomies and things like that, and a couple of broken bones. So I was like a general practitioner, and there was no close follow-up, so you were kind of on your own out there, and it turned out to be pretty good. You mentioned my dad. I guess I'll just say a word about him a little bit. He was quite a neat guy. In fact, my grandfather was a doctor in general practitioner in Chicago, and his office, if any of you read The Devil in the White City by any chance, his office is right there where that took place, interestingly enough. Anyhow, and unfortunately, he died kind of young. He had a stroke, I think, when he was 55 or something like that. But my dad started out at the University of Iowa. In about 1925, he came and he was chairman of the Department of the University of Illinois, I think for 38 years before he retired. But he had a private practice out in Oak Park that I worked with him. And just one story about my grandfather who I never got to meet. His name was Samuel Falls. And I'm one of 6 boys in our family. I had 5 brothers. And so at one point, we went out to put flowers on the grave of my grandfather. And one of my brothers, who was about 10 years old, was looking at the headstone, and he said, Sam Mule. He says, why did they call him Sam Mule? And my dad says, well, probably because he had a jackass for a grandson. So I thought that was good. So anyhow, that was just only a guy. But I don't know where we go next in this. I mean, I can talk for an hour of stuff that happened on ADAC, but you don't want to hear that. No, at Great Lakes was wonderful. We had a teaching program there. They had a very active OB program, and we had 5 residents and a great attending man, and so it was a wonderful year. And as I say, I got out of there, I went to Oak Park for 2 years, and then started up here. So.
And when you started up here, that Take us on that journey a bit.
There was two other doctors practicing, Dr. Lutz, Chuck Lutz, and Peter Carney. They had individual practices at the time. I really wanted to be my own. I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know why exactly, but I did. Because one of them wanted me to join them, and I said, well, maybe, but I'd like to just go out on my own for a while. Fortunately, quite a few of the patients that I had down in Low Parks followed me up here that first year. That kind of kept bread on the table. And things grew then pretty rapidly, and then over the years we've had partners, you know, that have come, got up to a group of 6 at one point, you know, but it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride.
Yeah, couple of the names I recall because I didn't come here till 1988, so you had already been here for 24 years at that point.
Yeah,
But some of the docs I remember, Lionel Shevitz,
he was my first partner.
Bill Gardner, they joined up with you, and what happened?
Well, there was.
This is what we came to hear.
This is a slightly funny story, and I don't remember exactly what year this was, but the three of us were working. But at that time, we weren't affiliated with Northwestern, but we were maybe about to be, and we were certainly negotiating with them. And Northwestern planned to send medical students up to Lake Forest Hospital and residents for training and interns. And they wanted to have somebody as a sort of medical director to be involved with running that program, teaching it, and it really appealed to me. It's basically this man's job, okay? And so I said I would take that job. And so actually I left Dr. Shevitz and Gardner and took that job. And so for about 4 months, right about 2 months after I made that decision, Congress changed what they call the Medical Man Care Act. They revised it. And what they did, they required that all the teaching institutions have at least 50% of their residents come out as what they call primary care physicians. Now that would be a family practitioner. I think pediatricians is considered primary care. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. But at the time, many of these places like Northwestern, 90% of their residencies were all in the specialties. And they had them in different affiliated hospitals in Chicago and so on. And so I must have talked to 10 different guys from Northwestern to try to figure out what's happening. But for them to comply with us, they had to kind of pull their horns in. So make a long story short, they said, we're not going to be sending anyone up to Lake Forest Hospital. We're not going to have that sort of thing. So I think I was out of for about 4 months until I saw the handwriting on the wall that it wasn't going to happen. So I went back to work with Dr. Gardner.
Yeah. Now notice he said, I went back with Dr. Gardner.
Yeah.
When he left, there were 3 of them.
Yeah.
And we all know in our practices, the docs will tell you, they're kind of our families away from home. Well, he was the glue that held the 3 of them together because the Dr. Shevitz I knew, if he wanted you to attend a cesarean section, which the pediatricians did in those days, he would pick up the phone, call you, and literally say, I request the honor of your presence, that at an upcoming surgery I'll be performing, are you able to attend? Dr. Gardner, who's a wonderful, wonderful doctor, on the other hand, first would try and have somebody else call you, but if he had to call himself, he'd say, get your, I'll say fanny, not the A word, get it in here now before I deliver this baby without you being here. So a bit of oil and water, and when you left...
You know, I'm not saying I chose one over the other, but Dr. Shevitz also had a son coming out of medical school who was going to join him in practice too, so it just seemed the right way to go.
And then continue to expand
Yes.
and grow the practice.
Right.
That
Right. As a hospital, you know, it's so interesting. I gave you those numbers at Cook County Hospital, 50 a day. People shake their head and think I'm exaggerating. It's not, because the annual total was 18 to 20,000, and so you could do the math if you want. It is so strange because by the time I've been here, maybe 15 years or so, Lake Forest Hospital was delivering more babies than Cook County.
That a pediatrician's
and
dream.
about 95% of our patients were African American people, and it's not that there were signs saying you can't come in if you're black, but the reality was that you sort of had to be a private doctor in order to get into these hospitals. And so all over the city, these women were going to Board of Health clinics, and then when they went into labor, they would usually come to Cook County Hospital. There was one other hospital called Provident on the south side that did quite a few, but nowhere near. But that all has changed, which is such a good thing, isn't it? That no longer does that situation exist now, and so you don't have that kind of. It's truly, Cook County Hospital just delivers a handful of babies now.
What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the practice of medicine? And if you can, touch on both advances and good things as well as things that maybe aren't quite as good.
Well, first of all, there's been a steady, unrelenting improvement in the technology of medicine that we use. I mean, you can't ignore that. That just keeps getting better and better and better. You take ultrasounds or any of those sort of things, it's just incredible now. If you see what you get compared to the very first images that we looked at, you had to use a lot of imagination to decide what you're looking at. I think that I'm not sure just how to put it, but when I first I'll tell you, when I first came to Lake Forest Hospital, I have to divert just a bit. I can remember George Caldwell was the administrator, and so he took me on a little tour through the hospital before I moved up here. And I used to been in big kind of clinical hospital, so I went through old Lake Forest Hospital, and as I'm wandering through, I'm looking around. I says, "Is this a hospital?" I mean, beautiful decorations everywhere, and the rooms are so nice and everything. And I thought, my God, am I coming to a place that's just like a rest home for old people, or do they really practice medicine here? I really had some qualms about it, I must say that, until I started working here. And then I realized that the quality of medicine that was being practiced was superb. First of all, one of the requirements for Lake Forest Hospital is that you had to be board certified. So not only you had to get your MD, but you had to be board certified. And that doesn't guarantee excellence, but it does sort of give you a
good springboard.
It is. It really is. So that was something revealing. But the other thing that I found was working here and having, I worked at West Suburban Hospital in Oak Park, which is a much bigger hospital, and we had, it was like pulling teeth to get them to get new equipment and stuff that we wanted. And when we got up here, our board was really wonderful. And first, we had a wonderful relationship with the board and the medical staff and administration. And it became apparent to me that if you could make a really good case that what we wanted is going to improve patient care, it was forthcoming. It got it done much quicker and much better than we saw at the other clinical place, okay? So it is a lovely environment, but the quality of medicine was really quite good, actually, better than where I had left, to tell you the truth. So I guess I didn't really answer your question. I got a little sidetracked, but you said, what are the changes in medicine? I see there. That's a little hard to answer. There's so much. The only, a change that has maybe slightly negative connotations, and I really don't want this to be misunderstood. There's sort of something that happens with bigness that changes the intimacy of the relationship that I think we had when the whole operation was smaller. And that just goes with the territory, I think, no matter what the institution is. It's not a criticism of the quality of medicine at all, but it's just part of what I've seen, over the years, that there seems to be a.
That was
Have you-
it that same board that you were close with that you mentioned that gave you the bull thrower award?
Well, yeah, I got it one year. Yeah. No, but yeah. No, but the board, we used to have an annual golf outing and show acres with the board medical staff, and that was one of the awards that they had. Overall, there's no question, though, that the quality of medicine, or the ability to deal with serious problems, has actually gotten better and better. So I'd say it's safer to be a sick patient right now than it was 30 or 40 years ago.
Do you know how many doctors were on staff when you joined the hospital?
Probably, I think it was between 50 and 60, I think.
That is correct.
But,
and how many women?
But, well, I don't know about that, but in my medical school, we had 150 in my class in medical school, and we had one girl. 149 men and a woman. That certainly has changed now, particularly in obstetrics. I think now it'd be one man with 150 women, I think, for that. So on our medical staff, I think we did have one doctor that was here, internist, that practiced here and I think at another hospital, right?
Just so you all know, we are now over 800 plus, between 800 and 900 on our medical staff. So things have really changed. How much was the average bill you sent out to deliver a baby when you started?
Well, I guess what I did is when I joined my dad, he's kind of a big shot. Oh, but you think he charged a lot? He charged $75 for an obstetric. Now that includes, something like 12 prenatal visits, a delivery, and a postpartum, and he charged $75. Now the younger doctors in Oak Park were charging $100, so I tried to jog him to get him to change his ways. So I came up here. I think I might have started at 75, or maybe I went to 100.
Wow!
But let me tell you something else, though. Let me tell you a story about that. One day I was at the nursing station writing notes with Paul Berger. I don't know if any of you remember Paul Berger. He was a great guy. And there was a little piece of paper on the nurse's desk, and I sort of picked it up and looked at it. And it was a hospital bill from 1943. Don't ask me how it got there. And it was from a maternity bill. So the woman stayed in the hospital 5 days. There was a separate charge for the labor room, a separate charge for the delivery room, a separate charge for the nursery and her. So she was 5 days in the hospital, and I don't know if any of you would like to take a guess as what the hospital was. Any thoughts? $78.10. I don't think you can get a Band-Aid for $78 now in the hospital. So things, they have changed.
That's really pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I once heard a quote that says, "If you're not learning, you're not living."
Yeah.
Do any of you know who authored that quote? He's sitting right next to me. So he has dedicated his life to continuing learning. Since you've retired, tell us a bit about what you've been doing. How many classes have you taken? How many courses you completed?
Well, I at the hospital, you mean? Because I try to go to all the lectures that they have.
He certainly does.
Every Friday we have a nice grand round lecture, and every Thursday morning at 7:30 there's a tumor board that has a good, that I attend that because I enjoy it. Once in a while there'll be a special lecture. What has really kind of kept me afloat intellectually, there's a company called The Great Courses. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, but it's a wonderful company, and they have college courses, and they have over 500 of them. And I like to get the DVDs because you actually see the professor lecturing to you. And most of the courses are like anywhere from, I'd say, 36 to a couple of 84 half-hour lectures. And the way they do this, they take whatever subject you're interested in, they go all over the country to get representatives to candidates for that lectureship. And they have a way of whittling it down to pick the best college professor in the country for that particular subject. So I think to myself, what could be nicer than to sit in a college classroom with the best teacher in the country giving that particular subject? And so I really, it's been just a godsend to me. I counted up the other day, I've got 84 of those. I was surprised. I didn't think there had been that many over the years, but they do accumulate. So I try to kill two birds with one stone. I have a little stationary bike in the basement with a TV set in front of it. So I put a lecture on for a half hour and pump away, and it takes the pain out of that. So it's been really fun.
So what I hear is that you've not stopped. You're still actively learning.
Well, I hope. Yeah, I hope.
That's pretty incredible. You know, we have some of your colleagues that have practiced with you here today that reached out to me and said they'd love to say a few words. So I'm going to call a couple of you up, starting with Steve Ganchert, our past president of the medical staff.
Before Steve got here, I have to say that his father was my best friend, absolutely the best friend I've ever had. We interned together at Cook County Hospital. And we played on the basketball team there. We had a good basketball team. His dad was a great athlete. And we played Loyola College and University of Chicago. And we had a good time. And then Bill, his dad, went into the Air Force. I went into the Navy. I'm not sure. He went for residency training one place, I went someplace else. We hadn't seen each other for years. And when I moved from Oak Park up here in 1964, within 2 months, Bill moved to town. Isn't that amazing? I had no idea he was coming, and he didn't know I was here. But we've been very close. And I've known this kid since he was... Anyhow.
Mic drop. That was all my material. No, that's great. No, yeah, Hugh and my dad, really were best friends. I grew up with the Falls family, so I spent all my Christmases with them, with Doug and Chris and Amy, and just wonderful memories. So I knew the whole personal side of Dr. Falls. Not even, obviously, as a kid understanding, I didn't even know what my dad did. I mean, I knew he was a doctor, but you didn't know what that meant. So it was, as my life went on and I did my training and then decided to come back and join my dad, much like Hugh worked with his dad. My dad, fortunately or unfortunately, had some other health issues, so retired shortly after I started. But I worked with Hugh for decades, I think. I mean, amazingly, right? Shared
He's
patience.
still got more hair than you, though.
I know. That's the tough part. But we've played golf together and tennis together, and just really, really enjoyed his company. And obviously, as you're getting the theme from everybody here, his calm demeanor and just his friendliness and inclusion, and just a wonderful human being. So happy to be a part of the day.
That wasn't nice to comment about the hair. I'll tell you, can I tell you a quick story about that?
Absolutely.
That you mentioned. I was, again, at a nursing station writing some stuff, and we had a neurosurgeon here named Ron Paul who was challenged a little bit that way. And so we were talking about baldness there, and he said, well, there's two kinds of baldness. He said, one kind of baldness is in the front, and it's because there's so much cerebral activity going on in there that the hair won't grow.
We are going to keep this
No.
PG,
No,
right?
no.
Okay.
He said, then there's another kind of baldness that starts back here, and that's due to high hormone levels, testosterone levels, and so if you have this baldness in the front, you see, it means you're a great thinker. He said, but if the baldness is in the back, he says that means you're a great lover. And he said, the trouble is when the baldness in the front meets the baldness in the back, it means you think you're a great lover.
That very, very typical. All right, we have two of your obstetrician colleagues here, Dr. Jill Holden and Carmen Woods. Speaking about advancements of women in medicine, Jill is a past president, our first woman president of the medical staff at Lake Forest. Carmen is our current vice president, and in 2 years will assume that role. So share some stories.
You started up here when I was about 2. But 28 years later, in different groups, and you would say we were competitors, I guess, and most friendly competitors ever. You didn't work with your partners at night waiting for babies. You hung out with your competitors waiting for babies. And Hugh's one of my favorite people, and we spent lots of evenings, lots of nights waiting for babies, learning jokes. And I could probably still never remember punchlines. Talking about science, there was a big issue that came up in our field in 2001 on the Women's Health Initiative, and changed our world. It came out in the news long before it came out into our, well, maybe a couple days before it came out into our science journals, and we had to debate and discuss what we were doing. We had 15 million women on hormone therapy in our country, and all of a sudden it was being told to us that was a bad thing. We had lots of conversations at night about pros and cons and what that study said. But then I kind of thought about it. Hugh got to practice in a time before we had hormone therapy. It was around when I started in training, and he got to see women age prior to that, and maybe it's not the same science-based evidence, but there's a lot of changes that we would see over the course that we have to learn from our mistakes and learn from what we've done before. But I always thought there was a lot of information that we would gather through them. So with lots of love and respect, one of my favorite people.
Thank you, sweetheart.
So I have to echo that sentiment. I came out of residency in the city and worked with my father, and if anyone knew my dad, he's a very pragmatic guy, and he tells you what he thinks, and you do what he says. And so I'm like, all right, first thing, you get into trouble, you look for Dr. Falls. Something's going on, you look for Hugh Falls. And truer words were never spoken. Just a gracious gentleman. Nobody deserves this more. Congratulations.
I'm going to read you a message from our current chief of OB-GYN, Dr. Michael Hubble, who's practiced a long time with you, couldn't be here today. I met Dr. Falls for the first time in the fall of 1987 while I was delivering twins in the old Lake Forest Hospital. I was having a somewhat difficult time delivering the second twin since it was breech. Yes, we delivered breech babies vaginally back then. And when the delivery room door opened and Dr. Falls said, "Would you like some help?" I said, "Absolutely. I welcome the help from this kind, experienced physician," and we ultimately delivered 2 healthy babies. When we were done, he asked me, "Do you want to hear a great joke?" that this would be the first of many jokes that he would tell me over the next 30 years. Some clean, some not so clean, and some really dirty. I added that. Dr. Falls did not know it then, but he actually embodied Northwestern medicine's mission of making patients first. His professionalism, kindness, and willingness to help others assured that this patient, who was not his own, welcomed her only 2 children into this world. And yes, I still see this patient, and those twins will be 37 years old this fall. Now, to hear from the pediatric world, that we have Dr. Gerald Layson, that my former partner, mentor, and colleague, who spent many a time coming to deliveries with Dr. Fall, and despite being in different disciplines, obstetrics and pediatrics, they actually were in competition for being the best joke teller at Lake Forest Hospital.
What I was happy to learn today is that there's a benefit for having the bald spot in the top of your head. I also hark back to the Cook County days, and I was there as a medical student, and I remember walking one day, and the intern said to me, "Have you ever done a spinal tap?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you're going to learn them today." And took me in the room, we did the spinal tap. It was see one, do one, teach one.
That's right.
I joined the medical staff in 1966, and Dr. Falls was here.
Yep.
And when I retired 45 years later, Dr. Falls was still here. When I started practice with Dr. Elmer Caddison, there were no ER doctors, no neonatologists, no hospitalists, no sonogram, no CT, no MRI. We did it all. The pediatrician was called to labor and delivery at any time of the day or night for breech deliveries, failure of labor to progress, twin deliveries, whatever. Most of the time I received the phone call from one of the nurses who said, "Dr. X or Dr. Y or Dr. Z needs you, but not with Hugh Falls." He called personally to advise me of the situation and gave me a time frame for when I was needed. While we were waiting for the process to get underway, we would drink bad coffee, eat graham crackers, and discuss our mutual love, the Chicago White Sox. I saw Dr. Falls do cesarean sections, apply forceps, guide his patients through major obstetrical situations. He always remained cool, calm, and collected, and treated his patients with respect and dignity and competence. Dr. Falls is a credit to the community, and I'm proud to call him my friend.
Some of the old people that really run the hospital, because we all know nurses run the hospital,
Right.
that you worked with on the labor and delivery suite, Eleanor Nichols
Yeah.
and Anita DeVellis.
Yeah. Great friends.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you then also worked with Eleanor's daughter.
Absolutely.
That Jennifer, that who is still one of our top labor and delivery nurses, and third generation son Jake. But did you deliver Jennifer?
Yep.
That
Yeah, we on Christmas Day. Exactly right.
You were up until 3 a.m. putting together Amy's dollhouse.
yeah. Did you all
That's
hear
right.
that?
That's correct. I was running back and forth between the dollhouse and the delivery room. So you're part of this.
That is a true story. I had a chance to speak with Amy, and her reflections and memories of her dad being in practice growing up was there wasn't anything he couldn't do. He really was also a big handyman, fix-it man, and said whenever something needed to be done around the house or hospital, my dad was there to do it. Hence the 3 a.m. putting together the dollhouse. Yeah, we also have Dr. Craig Sopko from anesthesia, who I think Craig now wears the badge of being the longest tenured anesthesiologist that we've had at the hospital. And you guys spend many an hour in the delivery room, many a night together, and he wanted to come add a few of his thoughts.
Well, this guy is also the greatest golfer in Lake County, just so you know. Oh, my God.
That.
Be nice.
I was thinking it's going to be nice. Thank God, first of all, that you came back from the Aleutian Islands and went to Great Lakes, because that would have been a huge loss for our community. And I've known Hugh for over 35 years, and feel privileged to be able to call him friend and colleague, and for so many years. And on a personal level, as a friend, just being able to talk to him and know what a proud father he is to Amy, to Chris, and to Doug, and when he talks about you, how he beams, really, how he beams. And I'll try to make it through without a tear. And a devoted husband to Alice. In addition to everything else he has done with his life. And his love of jazz, his curiosity for life, even at 93 years young, he is always trying to learn, and a role model for me, for sure, and I think would be for everybody. And he, as Michael has alluded to, that he likes to tell some jokes every once in a while. And
More than that.
He has a library in his head of jokes and musings about the world that would make Jerry Seinfeld blush. I mean, it's that volume. And I just want to relate one story to you. And Hugh and I, we still talk about this 30 years down the road. It's happened probably 94 and 95 when we did golf trips out to La Quinta, California. And it was me, Hugh, Bill Gardner, and Ozzie Steinwald.
Oh.
And what a group that was. I was the kid in that group, and it feels good for me to say that, but because I'm not a kid anymore. But it was, and I knew back then that you were a legend, and it's grateful to know that everyone else realizes the same thing right now. And the same thing goes for Ozzie and Bill and what they did for the community and for the hospital. And so we made the trip out there, and out of the four of us, there were some loud sleepers. I'll just say it that, loud sleepers. And Bill Gardner was tucked off. It was his place in the desert, so he had priority. He took his place off in his room. And then Hugh and then Ozzie was in one room, and I think Ozzie was with Hugh in one room, and then I was in the living room. And I was low on the priority list, so I was in the living room. And it wasn't me, and it wasn't Hugh, and it wasn't Bill, but there was some loud sleeping going on. And Hugh left the room after about 5 minutes and came out with me, and we were out in the living room together. And we put towels underneath that door. We put pillows underneath that door. We put towels and pillows on our ears, and it really didn't help. And the next morning, we'd all meet on the first tee, and Ozzy was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He was ready to go. And Hugh and me and Bill are kind of dragging our feet over. And but at the end of the day, it was a great trip. It was great memories that we still talk about. I miss both those guys, and we're the remaining guys in the group. And I just want to say, as Bob Hope used to say, thanks for the memories.
Thank you a lot. Well,
What are you going to say after that?
I'm speechless. So when I
That
never know
doesn't
what to
happen
say,
often. That
when I don't know what to say, I tell a joke.
There we go. Okay, look out
questions?
here. Remember the rating system.
They're all adults, right?
Okay.
Yeah, he asked if I would tell one joke. I'll tell one joke. It's one I've always liked. And maybe some of you have heard it before, but anyhow. This is a story about two old guys that lived in New York. They were widowers, and they were in their 80s. And they kind of met each other in Central Park one time and sort of bonded. And so they agreed to meet every day. And so they would come out at 10 o'clock, and they would sit on a bench, and they brought some stuff, and they would feed the birds and the squirrels, and they'd talk about what's going on in the world. And this went on for about 2 years, and they didn't miss a day. Let's call them Bert and Ernie for lack of two other names. Anyhow, so one day Bert comes and Ernie's not there. And he says, oh gosh, maybe he's sick. So it's too bad. The next day he comes and Ernie's not there. And then the third day, Ernie's not there. And he says, oh my God. And I'm so chagrined, I never even bothered to find out where he lives, so I really don't have any way of checking on this guy. So a week goes by and Ernie's not there. And now 2 weeks go by, he's not there. Now he says, I'm afraid maybe the worst has happened, and he's really kind of sad about that. The third week goes by and no Ernie. Now he's pretty sure that's what's happened. So he's very depressed, but he keeps going out there. After 4 weeks, he's still. So he goes out one day and he sees Ernie sitting on a bench feeding the squirrels and the birds. He said, Ernie, for God's sake, where have you been? I've been worried to death about you. And Ernie said, well, I've been in jail. He said, you've been in jail? What? In jail? Well, he said, you know that cute little blonde that works at the donut shop we go to? Of course I remember her. Well, she claimed I raped her. And he said, I was so flattered by that I pled guilty to the charge. I said, now wait a minute, Ernie, wait a minute. You don't get 1 month in jail for rape. And he said, no, so the judge gave me 30 days for perjury.
Oh my God. Just so you know, that's one of his G-rated jokes. Any questions from the audience? Questions, comments? Hugh, did we miss anything?
No, but I thought Jerry did a good job. You asked me, have you seen changes in medicine? And he ticked off a list of all the technological improvements since we started. It really is quite amazing. And it's funny how it happens so gradually, sometimes you don't take notice of it. And then when you go back and try to compare how it is now, how it was 40 years ago, it's really quite startling.
He's going home quite excited about that bald spot in the back now. I hope you will all join me in giving a big round of applause. The legend that...
All right. This comes with an award. I'm passing it to our chair, Maddie Dugan.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I'd particularly like to thank my co-chair, Sarah Mailer, who was not able to come today due to a family wedding. But she was really the glue that held this whole thing together because she worked for Hugh, ran his office for 10 years, I think. And so I want to thank Sarah and all the staff here. Besides these awards, we do have one more award to give tonight, and it's to the people who traveled the furthest to come to this event. And I would like to introduce Steve Seiler. Where are you, Steve? And his wife Pam. And yeah. For those of you who may not know, I probably go back as far as the hospital as almost anybody here, but that's okay. Steve was the administrator when I first started volunteering, and his wife Pam volunteered, and I want to thank you both for your service. Thank you. And to Seamus Collins, who is our current president of the hospital, thank you so much for... And I'd also like to thank everybody who supported this event. This has been an incredible, I think record-breaking fundraiser for the Lake Forest History Center of Lake Forest and Lake Bluff, sorry. And I want to thank the medical staff of Lake Forest Hospital for contributing, as well as the administration of Lake Forest Hospital for contributing. And Dr. Falls and Dr. Bauer for being our main contributors. Couldn't have done this without you. Thank you so much. And we have a little something for the two of you.
This is for you for being an awesome interviewer.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then now you get to stand because there are photo opportunities with Maddie.
Oh, that's
I will hold this. This is your plaque. You can use it to, hit somebody if they break into your house. All right. Thank you all for coming.